Welcome to the Your Story Studios podcast, a podcast where we talk about all things content creation. And today on the show, I'm joined by a man who needs absolutely no introduction. But for those who may not know who you are you and what are you doing here?
My name is Andrew Bromley. I am a Melbourne photographer, videographer based in the Southeast. So I do a lot of work with music artists and clients. So that's live sets, music videos, promos, live recaps. I do a lot of behind the scenes as well. Quite a lot of hands in many baskets.
Awesome. All right. Well, tell me, Andrew, how did you get into video production and photography?
Well, it really started about 10 years ago, back in 2014 in October. I just didn't have any kind of aspirations for photography, didn't think of it as a career at all, wasn't interested in it at all. Went to a gig and my ex-girlfriend at the time said, hey, why don't you just bring a camera, like you like taking photos of your family, like why don't you bring it? I said, no worries. And the venue was happy for me to bring the camera. It was just in Frankston, in my hometown. I went, okay, I'll just give that a go. Then decided just to keep taking photos, and I ended up taking quite a few thousand photos of 5 bands and went, oh, this is kind of cool. And then they started sharing and I went, oh, that's kind of cool as well. And I decided to kind of give it a go and when invested in a proper camera to go, all right, let's give this a real hot go for once.
What was the proper camera?
It was it was a Canon 6D. So I went from a 1100D at first to a 6D.
Yeah, I got a Canon 6D over there.
Perfect. Yeah, so that's where I kind of started and then just kind of went to gigs. I wasn't very much a local gig person. I went to arena gigs every now and then. But yeah, went to a few local gigs and started kind of meeting people and realizing, oh, there's actually a big community here and a big environment. So I just kind of kept going, started getting a bit more notice, a bit more following, a bit more friends who kind of went, hey, you take photos, don't you? Why don't you come and shoot us? Can you do that? And it just kind of snowballed from there and went into different facets over the next couple of years.
Awesome. So leading up to today, can you take us through the process of starting and then where we are today?
Yeah, so I did a lot of networking. That was pretty much my bread and butter to start with. Like I probably couldn't do anything without the networking. Having like Instagram in its early age at least and a bit of Facebook. It was really a lot of Instagram people that got to me and said, hey, can you come do this? Or hey, are you coming to this show? And I would reach out to bands every now and then or friends I would know and say, hey, do you want me to come out? Like I won't charge. I never charged for probably like the first year maybe just to get my foot in the door and get that exposure. Met a lot of promoters through that as well. So a lot of people who run the gigs, I end up just messaging them being like, hey, can I have a pass? Like I just love to come shoot. Like there's no payment, there's no nothing. Just let me come shoot. They were happy to oblige. It wasn't a hard instance, especially on local shows. But yeah, that networking just kind of helped guide me into a way to look into charging. I ended up getting some mates who end up just going, hey, we'll pay you. And I said, oh no, don't worry. And they said, no, we're paying you for this because you're traveling quite a bit. And end up working from there. I went, okay, well, I could probably start charging. I ended up doing it little bit by little bit. And over the years, just kind of building that pricing and building that portfolio and that kind of repertoire that I had with like friends and other people in the other bands, seeing my work and going, okay, well, I can trust him. Let's get him on board. And then that kind of kept going with other people, getting bigger and bigger. But yeah, it was a lot of networking. It ended up just working completely in my favor and just gaining a bit of a following that way and helping a lot of people see my work that not many people probably would. And then even being stopped at shows and saying, oh my God, love your photos. Can you come shoot my band? Or we're playing a gig next. And that kind of really kept the ball rolling. Going into video production, that was literally just a friend asking, hey, we want to do a music video. Can you do that? And I just went, yeah, I can. Even though I was like, oh no, I can't do that. But I just gave it a go. And we set up in a little garage up in, I think it was Rowville somewhere, and shot a music video. It's not the greatest thing, but it's a good start. And that just, again, snowballed from there. People saw that and went, oh, Andrew can shoot music videos. Let's get him on one, and end up getting more and more. Probably in the last year and a half, 2 years, that kind of gotten a bit more heavier because people just all of a sudden went, oh, he's doing a lot more now. Let's get him on board and get him on many music videos. So I've done quite a few in the last 2 years that I'm really proud of. But yeah, it ended up just kind of going from there. That led into video recaps of bands because bands need video content sorely. There's not so much photo content as much on like TikTok and stuff like that. So it's a lot of like video recaps and like raw content of people performing. And that kind of brought in more clientele, which was great because it's like, oh, not going to say no to more work. And yeah, it just kept getting busier and busier.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned pricing before. How did you know what to price yourself at the beginning?
I really just tried thinking about like what I was worth. So at first I think I charged like $50 and I went, okay, this is just
You're worth more than that, Andrew.
Yeah, now I definitely am. But yeah, at the time, like 10 years ago, it was like, let's just like inch this kind of process in. And I
So
think
$50, that would cover like petrol costs,
basically,
and maybe
yeah.
like some food or whatever.
Exactly. It either covered me getting to the show or me getting in the show. Because again, the tickets were probably like $20 and then petrol's, not far. It really just helped with that little bit, just to give them an instance that they're not spending so much on photos when they don't know me. But nowadays it's a good amount of money for me to go, hey, look, you're taking my time, you're taking my traveling, you're taking my editing, and you're taking my time to upload and get everything sorted for you and get everything to your specifications. So it's like I'm charging a lot more than I used to, which is great. But it definitely took a lot more of a few years of kind of building that up to kind of put the feelers out and see what people liked, especially when I was messaging bands saying, hey, this is how much I charge, and them going, sorry, that's not in the budget, kind of going, okay, well, what is your budget, and getting an idea of them and how much they want to spend. It really helped me kind of realize, okay, this is what kind of bands are spending now, or at least like clients in that space. So
Was that a sobering answer when you saw how much they were willing to spend?
Every now and then some would charge way less than what I was kind of expecting. I was like, there's 5 of you in a band. Split that between like $100 each or $50 each or $25 each. And that kind of equals up to what, I could be charged. But it was definitely a few times where they kind of went, well, that's too expensive. And I went, well, 100 bands that I've shot before, they don't have an issue. How's it a bit different? It was definitely humbling a few times just to get some people just going, it's too expensive or we don't have the budget, and then trying to kind of work with them. I've been doing a lot of work with other bands when they don't have a budget and going, look, how much are you willing to spend? If they go this much, I go, well, limiting my ability and going, well, this is what I can provide you with that budget, because I'm not going to do my full amount of work for not as much as a budget as what I usually get, really.
Yeah. And also you mentioned traveling as well. How far have you been traveling for these photography and video gigs? Have you been going around Australia, or is it more contained within Melbourne?
Yeah, it's more contained in Melbourne now since having my son. Before him, and it was usually just every kind of few months. The first maybe about 2016, I ended up doing 3 tours in a row, and they were just up the East Coast, so nothing too complicated. One was a weekender going to Sydney, Canberra, and Newcastle. Another one was going from Adelaide to Sydney to Brisbane and back. But yeah, it's usually probably an hour. I live in the southeast, so it's about 50 minutes with good traffic, an hour with bad. Usually it's about an hour into the city, so it's not too bad for me. It's pretty smooth sailing, so I'm not fussed with travel. I usually kind of gauge, well, look, it's about $50 to get a full tank or whatever. So I kind of gauge that to go, well, it takes about this much to get to the city. That's fine. Traveling's not too much of an issue now. It used to be when I used to just catch a train and be like, okay, I need to charge more for the travelling of the train, taking 2 hours, especially not 40 minutes to get into a city gig. It's a bit easier now than it was before.
And talking about those tours, what were they like?
They were fun, but exhausting. And I definitely started being a little bit quiet at first, because it was my first time really being interstate on my own, because I usually went with family on trips and everything. So being with a few people who I had just kind of gotten to know was interesting. The first tour I did was just a Southeast tour, and that was with a bunch of friends who I'm still friends with now and work with still to this day, which is great. Which is where that networking still comes in. It works really well. That was fun, and that was interesting to get up to Brisbane and back and go to Adelaide for the first time, because I'd never been to Adelaide before, never really been to Sydney too much. I'd been there maybe once and twice my whole life.
Yeah, it's nice to visit, and then it's nice to leave.
Yeah. Especially Adelaide. That was probably the hardest one, because it's there's just nothing there. And it's just cool, get in, get out, let's go. But Brisbane and Sydney, it's oh, cool, we can kind of chill about a bit. So that was quite nice. I think for the first time, I spent a week in Sydney, because we were having a split date between one gig to another. So there was 5 days between Sydney and then Newcastle. And I was like, I can just chill. That's fine. We can just explore and have fun and take behind the scenes and film random crap. And it was fun. But yeah, the first few tours were just mentally kind of preparing myself for something else like that. I definitely kind of went, okay, well, I need to eat more. I need to drink more, because it was just focusing on oh, I got to capture things, and realize, oh, I need to drink water and actually hydrate. But yeah, they were pretty fun. They were good experiences to have, at least good memories. I've still got Polaroids and old photos from those gigs. So it's fun to look back on and go, oh, that was cool doing that.
Yeah, cool. Well, yeah, let's talk about how do you look after yourself when you're actually at the show getting the photos. Like you said, you need to drink water. You also have expensive equipment with you. How do you protect that? Have you been in any dangerous situations where a crowd surfer's come to hit you in the back of the head or anything like that?
I mean, there plenty. Usually I try and before early years, I used to be just run and gun. I used to just go and just not even think about my body. Now I'm doing a lot of like stretches because it's like usually like I have to get down quite low or I have to pull my camera up really high because of being of my height. I have to kind of maneuver around a bit more. So a lot of stretching, a lot of just like more back and arm stretches.
You got to protect that back.
Yeah, it can get, I didn't realize like how bad my back was. But yeah, that was something that I had to really look into. Yeah, drinking water, making sure I get food. So I either try and get food before or in between sets. If I'm working for multiple bands, I just try and get something to eat in my body just to kind of push through. Because again, at gigs, there's not food, there's drinks there. So I'll usually just get water there. But yeah, usually I just try and keep myself hydrated and keep focused. A lot of times I'm now slowing down because I used to just shoot and just not worry. And now I'm just like, okay, I can take a break for a song here. I can take a break for like 20 seconds and just kind of think about what I want to do next and then go, okay, cool. I can move to the next spot and do what I need to. But yeah, that was usually like a lot of, focus to keep on because I usually just went crazy. I haven't had any bad experiences with crowd surfers. Probably the only one that was the worst, which was, I can't remember what year it was, at least like 2016, 2017. A band was playing at a festival in Melbourne and they had just finished a song, like legit just finished, and a guy jumped up on the stage and then front flipped off. And I just kind of saw him and I was like, oh, the song's finishing. Like, why are you getting up there and jumping off? And he jumped and went full front flip onto me. And so I had to like turn around. I had my camera in on my body. So I just turned around and took the brunt force of it on my back. Stuffed me up for a few weeks because I was just like, it fully winded me. I was on the floor and people were like, oh my God, are you okay? And I'm just like, I can't breathe, like I'm gone. So I went and sat down for a while and then kind of had a moment of like anxiety of just like, okay, that stressed me the hell out. That was probably the worst thing I've done. Other than that, like I've had, crowd surfers kick me in the head. I've caught crowd surfers because like they were just security guys weren't there at the moment. So it's like I had to catch someone. Yeah, I've had to protect myself quite a bit. With my camera gear, I'm usually pretty like visually aware of what's going on. Like if there's a mosh pit, I go, okay, cool. I can just know that I can see people starting to get a bit rowdy and be like, all right, I'm going to move off or move out the way. Or at least like move position, go, okay, cool. I can get a different shot like this and move away. I've gotten enough here. I'm going to move. Usually I'm pretty aware of when something's coming. I've seen worse like from other photographers who have had like the whole camera like literally bashed into their head from a crowd surfer. I've had a guitar hit my lens hood and hit my UV filter, which was lucky enough didn't break the glass. But nothing too extensive at least. And fingers crossed nothing else happens.
And when you're shooting these gigs, is it a single camera or do you have multiple cameras on you so you're not doing any lens changes?
Most of the time it is single camera. That's all I've had. I've only recently just bought a second body, which is good now. So I can now kind of focus on two things at once. But yeah, most of my stuff was all single body and just like switch lenses as quick as possible. Like 20-minute set, that's not a lot of time. So it's usually like 20 seconds that I'm wasting trying to quickly get a new lens set up or anything like that. Not too bad now. Now that I've got a second camera, I can kind of go, all right, cool. I can set this camera up and leave it and then shoot everything else, come back, swap and not do too much fluffing around, which is, pretty nice to keep it a bit easier during these sets.
Yeah, that's what you want. And let's now talk about today. What does a typical week look like for you in regards to photo and video?
Usually it is just a lot of emailing, a lot of admin. Luckily enough, I've got now like a little personal assistant that helps me out. So we do a lot of emailing during the day because I work full time at a normal job, not a photography job, it's fine. It works. That's just something we do a lot of admin and go, okay, cool. Let's see what's on. Let's see if there's any gigs, branching out to something else, like, going for comedians. There's a few comedians coming up with the Melbourne Comedy Festival. So doing a lot of emailing for other clients and trying to get that kind of broad range and kind of move out of music photography, still have it there as like a side part, but also push more into like other areas of photography that might interest me a bit more and challenge me a bit more. So yeah, it's a lot of admin at the moment. It's a lot of slow period during the month of January because no one's replying because everyone's on holiday still. But slowly but surely getting all the emails back in, everyone's contacting. So we're just lots of admin at least at the time.
Yeah, things do go very quiet in Australia around January in this industry. Unless you're doing sport like the tennis, you do get a bit of downtime, which is good because then you can catch up on the admin and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You talked about looking at different things other than music videos and or bands. And you also mentioned comedians. Is there anything else that you want to dip your toes into, like corporate video, the exciting world of corporate video?
I've thought about it. I'm doing a wedding in August, which is great. So I'm kind of getting back into like the wedding photography and wedding videography. I'm doing photos for them. I did about like 2 or 3 back in the day. So it's kind of like I kind of want to dip my toe back into that again because it was interesting and challenging because it was so different to music photography because it's so slow and quiet. It's not like a fast 20-minute set. It's a 6-hour day, getting very much the broad essentials for, weddings and getting all the coverage you need. So I'm kind of dipping my toe back into that to give that a go and kind of see where that leads me. Corporate wise, if it's there, I'll do it. I've seen a few events where people are like, oh, hey, can you come shoot like my business or come shoot that? And I'll be like, okay, cool. Let's kind of see how that works. But yeah, it's usually like trying to look into comedians because like me and my partner go to a lot of comedy shows. So it's like, oh, well, maybe they need portraits before the shoot and doing stuff like that. So we're reaching out a few of those to see if that can be something that we can look into because there's quite a few comedy shows every now and then. Try to look into doing a lot of editing work. So I've had a few bands and clients hit me up saying, hey, can you do like a promo for me? And like, we've got a show coming up. Can you like whip out something in a 15-second little promo? Getting into that to doing a lot more editing on my side, not so much like, going out to film something and then editing it later, but having stuff already going, hey, look, you've got footage of us. Can you just edit a thing together? Cool, do that. So kind of dipping my toe in little bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah. And do you have a preference with shooting or doing editing?
Do
you like both?
I like both. I love filming, but then I dread editing sometimes when it's depending on the gig. If it's a really good one where I'm like, oh my God, the footage looks great. This is going to be sick. I love the music. Oh, awesome. When it's like a band I haven't listened to and I have to kind of go, okay, I need to figure out what would work for this edit. Because sometimes if it's like a really chill acoustic band, it's like, okay, well, I can't do like fast zooms and stuff like that. It's not going to work. It's not going to look nice. I like filming and taking photos more than the editing. Editing's nice when it's a good project, but it's like I get that rush when I'm doing the filming. It's like it's just kind of like, oh, I can just chill for a bit and just edit. This is nice, and it's just a relaxing thing. But yeah, I think I'm more into the filming side than the editing side.
Yeah, okay. And with the photo side of editing, when you go to a show, how many photos are you typically taking? And talk us through the process. Are you taking single shots and trying to capture that one moment, or are you just spraying and praying?
So it's like 50-50. It's like 50-50 spraying and praying. When it's a really chaotic kind of gig and like there's no way I'm getting into like the crowd too much. It's like, okay, I'll just get as much as I can and just see how they look. Half the time it's like, yeah, I have to kind of go, okay, well, I want to get these kind of shots. I need to get the basic shots of each member. And then it's like, okay, cool. Well, now I've got what I need for in terms of like they can use that easily. That's easy selects. Let's do something a bit more creative. Let's put a slow shutter on and get some blurry kind of like, light trail shots.
The artistic stuff.
Yeah, like let's frame it in a different way and crop it in a different way. Or let's focus on a piece of clothing that they've got on. Like I'm doing a lot of like trying to get some experimental shots. Like I've had a few friends who've got like jewelry on when they perform, or at least like maybe even close-ups of guitars and mics and things like that to be like, hey, look, you can promote the guitar, you can promote the mics that you're using, or the tattoos you've got. Cause like some people have like tattoos showing. So it's like, I try and take photos of the tattoo if it's like in a really nice area. Like, oh, cool, there's a tattoo on their wrist and it's like perfectly in focus and it looks really nice alongside the mic. And like you can kind of promote it that way as well. So I usually get my pickups and then I get my kind of, okay, let's be a little bit funny. Let's get a little bit of excited and try and do something a little bit different. So I try and get that little bit of mixture in between.
And how much access do you get at these live shows when you're taking photos? Are you able to go on the stage, or where are the boundaries for you?
Most gigs don't have like a photo pit these days, or at least most gigs that I go to, like they're just in standard venues. So they have just floor and then stage. Most of the time it's like if I'm there with the band, it's like I'm going on stage because I'm working. I'm not going to just limit myself. If the venue said like, hey, you can't go on stage, I'd be like, well, I'm with the band. If they go, yeah, that's fine. If they go, no, I go, okay, well, you can talk to the band and ask them. And if the band says this, whatever, that's fine. Yeah, most of my stuff is usually on the floor or on the stage. I try and get as close as possible to the drummers because drummers just don't get enough photos. So I get really up and close and personal with them because they get a little bit of a rush where they're like, oh, I'm getting photos now because no one can see me. But yeah, usually it's like that. Every now and then there's a few gigs with photo pits. But again, I don't go to many shows with one anymore just because they're just not in venues that have access to them. But when the photo pit's there, it's nice. It's a good break there. And if there's a photo pit where there's other photographers working the gig, not so much working for the artist, I usually try and give them space to shoot because they'll only have like 3 songs to shoot and I'll have the full set. So it's like, okay, give you space in there and then I'll do my thing and have that little bit of breathing space when they're all gone.
Yeah, cool. And you mentioned drummers. I've taken photos of drummers and it's really difficult to get good shots. Have you got any tips for the audience today?
Sometimes it's literally just spray and pray sometimes with them because it's like they'll be making the most obnoxious faces. I've got a few friends where I'm like, I can't, like I've even said to them, like, I can't take a nice photo of you. Like I can take a good ones when like they're smiling at the camera and they're stopping for a moment. So I usually get it in between songs because it's like, oh, it kind of looks like they're playing and they're not making a face. But sometimes it's like they've got their tongues out, they've got like full gritted teeth. They're really like serious faces. And some of them are just like, all facial expressions are gone. So it's a little bit tricky, but some of them understand where it's just like, they go, I know you can't take any good photos because I'm just like whirling around and looking a bit weird. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I'll just spray and pray and see if I get a good one. It's like, oh, here's a cool one of you, not quite looking at the camera, but you look like you're playing really well. And that kind of makes them happy.
And even on the technical side of it as well, do you crank the shutter speed up and the ISO, or what do you do to get a crisp shot, or do you like the motion blur of the drumsticks?
I like the motion blur. Because of my photography, most of the venues are pretty dark. So I'm usually basing it around like a 1/200 shutter. That's all I really keep it on because I use a lot of flash work. So I lose external flashes on stage to get a bit more light. And I just leave the ISO pretty standard and just kind of work with the flashes going like a low ISO, high flash, leave it at that. And in terms of aperture, I usually keep that at 2.0. I don't usually go like wide open. That's just something I haven't touched in a very long time just to get a lot of, because if I go to like 1.4, which is what my lenses usually do, there's not much, it's either spray and pray whether it's in focus on the part you want. And it's like I could get just the nose in focus and then the eyes are gone. It's like I want to get kind of particular shots. I try and keep it at like 2.0 and get a little bit of safety there. And if I want to get a little bit higher, I'll just crank the aperture a little bit and then push the flashes a little bit more and just keep that spacing nice. But yeah, not too much. I don't push it too hard. I've tried pushing it too hard and it made my photos look egregious and just like not appealing at all, and it just didn't work for my style. So I like to kind of keep it simple and easy.
Well, you've mentioned a few things about lenses and all that, but we'll talk about that in a future episode. So stay tuned for that, like and subscribe. Final question. What do you want to do in the future?
I would really just want to make it a full-time job. Working at my full-time job currently, it gets the bills done. It's fine. It's a job that I go to, I work, I come home and I spend time with my family, or I go and do my gig stuff. I'd love to make it a full-time thing. That's kind of the goal, is like I've been doing it for 10 years and I haven't had that. I've been really focused on music photography. So having time to kind of figure out and go, let's branch out and try and push this a bit more. As long as I can get the workload going, then all bets are off and I'll do it full time and really focus solely on that. But again, I'm not fussed if it doesn't work out that way. I just love doing it. If I can do it for the rest of my life, that's fine. And I still work a full-time job. I'm happy.
Yeah, well, network.
Absolutely, that's right.
And to finish off today's episode, Andrew, have you got any words of wisdom for our audience?
Really, words of wisdom is just do it. Like there's a lot of things where it's like you get really scared, and I was like that when I was starting out. I was just scared to do anything. I was scared to go out to shows. I was scared to get hurt. I was scared to like take photos. I was scared to do videos. It's like you just do it and just give it a go. Like there's no harm in trying. Failure is fine. It's okay to fail. I thought about that only recently and kind of went, oh, I did a lot of stuff I really sucked at, and I was like always just like hard on myself and pushing myself down and not feeling like I was good enough to do it. But looking back, I was like, no, the photos look fine. You were starting out. You were just early, and it's like you can fail. It's okay to fail. It's okay to miss your mark. It's okay to do something silly and realize, oh, I'll do better next time, because you will. You'll always do better next time. That'll get better and better the more you do it. It's okay to fail. It's okay to not be okay at a gig or something like that. You can work on it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for those words of wisdom, and thank you for joining us on the Your Story Studios podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.